recipients every day is a gift thanks to an organ donor. Many often turn their life-saving transplant into action by promoting organ donation and the Donate Life Registry to help other patients on the waiting list. While there are thousands of recipients who have had their transplant for several years, there's a special group of individuals who created the Quarter Century Club for recipients whose second chance at life has lasted 25 years or longer. This group advocates for organ and tissue donation while also offering support to fellow transplant recipients and showing the world that transplantation changes lives. On today's TOSA Talks, we'll meet with the group's president about their unique club, and we'll also hear from a kidney recipient who got her transplant in 1978. First up is George Franklin, the president of the Quarter Century Club. So can you tell us a little bit about your transplant journey?
Oh my transplant journey started in probably 1970 when I think I was first diagnosed with kidney disease. I was 16 years old at the time. When I turned 18, however, right after graduation, after that summer, that's when I ended up really, really sick in the hospital, in a community hospital. And once they got my blood pressure down, they were able to transfer me to George Washington University Medical Center in downtown DC. And that's where they determined that I had end-stage renal disease. My one kidney, because apparently I was only born with one, and that one kidney had shut down. It was no longer sustaining life. I was on hemo from 1972 to 1975, April, when I got my first transplant. Unfortunately, it never started, it never worked. And they took it out the next month, I think about 2 weeks, 3 weeks later. And I had 6 whole months of no surgery in this 3-year period. And my doctor, the hospital, I guess, texted me, and my doctor convinced me to take this kidney because I was very, very hesitant. I mean, he literally had to convince me, George, this is your kidney. Do not turn this kidney down. And I didn't. And apparently he was right. And November passed, I celebrated 45 years.
That's incredible. Wow. And how has donation changed your life?
When you've lived 45 years with a transplant, you only had your kidney for 18 years, and you have a deceased donor kidney whose family I've never been able to find for 45 years. It's like your entire life has been affected by this donation. Every single thing that I've done since November 4th of 1975 has been affected by this donation, by this gift of life. Just everything. I can't list all of the things, the transplant games, going to England in 1978 to be part of the first international transplant games, the birth of my son, my grandchildren, everything, literally. Yeah. I mean, that's my life, 45 years.
That's incredible. And we know also that transplant recipients, they get to know other transplant recipients by either support groups at their transplant centers or when they volunteer for an OPO, like you mentioned, to support donor education. But why is it important for you to create the Quarter Century Club, and how did it even get started?
Well, it came to my mind that long-term recipients such as myself, we have our own set of problems. Things that someone that was transplanted 2 or 3 years ago may not necessarily be going through, a person. So it just came to my mind, well, let me see if I can find someone else out there that had had a transplant for a long period of time. I think at that time I was maybe, I don't know, 32 years out or something like that, 10, 12 years ago. 25 years was a good round number, so to speak. And we now have over 150 members, I believe.
As recipients of a deceased donor, do you all do education to encourage others to help the patients on the waiting list?
You see us on Facebook all the time. we are good advocates, I think, for the concept of tissue and organ donation. So people don't misconstrue what we're doing. We're not bragging on our years. We all know that this is just a gift.
Right.
You know, what we're trying to do is to show the thousands of people that are at the games, the people that may be thinking about, maybe I could donate, maybe I should sign up, that when you see us marching in, when you see those numbers on our jerseys, you see that you have truly given the gift of life for 25, 26, 30, 40, 50 years. Someone has given the gift of life, whether they be a deceased donor or a living donor. That's what the club is about, to show that organ donation works and tissue donation works, and that it works for a long time.
That's incredible. And so for people who are watching this that maybe fit into that category that want to join, are you opening to having new members, and how do they join?
We're always open to new members, and our website where you can join is www.quartercenturyclub, all one word, .org.
George, thank you for meeting with us to talk about this remarkable group. We look forward to seeing the next group photo at the next Transplant Games. Here closer to home, Ana Maria Macias of San Antonio has had her kidney transplant from a living donor for 42 years. Anne Marie, can you tell us about your transplant journey?
My transplant journey started at the age of 4. I was diagnosed with toxemia at birth, and I went through various surgeries from the age of 4 till like 6.5, till they finally ended up putting a Foley and a bag in me for throughout my young adult life. I had gone to see an internal specialist, and when they saw my blood work, and when Dr. Bilbrey at the time called me and asked me how soon could I get to the hospital. That's how bad my blood work was. So what they had to do is first prepare me for dialysis because my blood was so poisoned. Oh, then in February of 78, they removed my kidneys that weren't functioning anyway. So I functioned without kidneys. And so at that point, that's when they really had to put me on dialysis. And in April, the doctor then, because I was living on my own at the time. So in April, they called in my parents and everything and said, she's going to need a kidney here. And my dad couldn't give me my kidney because he wasn't my biological father. My mom had the kidney problems to start with. And so my brother had come with them, the one he's 5 years younger than I am. And he said, well, what about me? He donated his kidney. So then in April of that same year, April 12th, I'll never forget, is when we went in and I got my transplant, my kidney. It changed my life completely. I mean, I was very young. I was in my early 20s when I had my transplant. So I was, even then, after my transplant, I worked, I coached, I did all kinds of things. And then, of course, I was blessed to have a son a year and a half later.
A lot of people who are watching this may not have even heard of someone who's ever had a transplant before, much less as long as you've been able to be blessed to have yours. So how does it feel to be part of such an elite group as a recipient who's had their transplant for more than 25 years?
I feel very blessed. I mean, let me tell you, I get up every morning, I put my feet on the floor and I thank the man up there.
What words of advice or of support do you have for someone who just got their transplant and is looking forward to 20 to 40 years, or even someone who's still waiting on the waiting list?
On the waiting list is, have faith. Okay. Sometimes it's hard. It's easier said than done. Try to do something different, get a hobby, go walking, go, gardening or something, just to kind of, not think so much about, well, when is it going to be me, and when you do get it, when you're blessed to have the transplant, I feel like you take care of it. There's always room to volunteer, in the scope of a TOSA. So if you don't like to do public speaking, pass out pamphlets, or, there's always something to do.
Thank you, Anna Marie, for talking with us and sharing your incredible story. And thank you to the Quarter Century Club for meeting with us to discuss transplants that have lasted longer than 25 years. If you'd like to learn more about how you can sign up to save lives, visit TOSA1.org. We'll see you next time on TOSA Talks.